and welcome back to another episode of Rational Talk. Today, we will be discussing the Phillies' recent hot streak, how they've won 7 of their last 9 games, and also a little bit of a pitching dilemma in the starting rotation. And as far as this team, the Sixers, we'll be talking about where they are right now in terms of how they're going to dig themselves out of this hole in the playoffs, down 2-0, and all that on today's episode of... Okay, to begin with the Phillies, they're just taking care of business right now. They've won 7 of their last 9 games. They swept the Rockies. They swept the White Sox, 2 of the really lesser teams in Major League Baseball. But, they still took care of business. Because sometimes, the Phillies teams in the past have tended to play down to their competition, and luckily this team has not been doing that so far, and they're just taking care of business against the lesser opponents that they have to. And some highlights from these 2 series. Start with the Rockies series. I want to touch on Ranger Suarez's performance in the game he pitched. Complete game shutout, 8 strikeouts, only 1 walk, no runs, just a stud. I mean, we always knew he was capable of this, being this dominant of a starting pitcher, but the fact that he's really coming out and showing that not only can he be on Aaron Nola's level, but I mean, the way he's pitching right now, he looks like one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He looks right up there with Zach Wheeler. And I mean, I know that's a crazy statement. Zach Wheeler's probably the best pitcher in baseball, if not top 3. But man, just how Rangers looked, it's just really incredible, and you love to see it. Now, to another pitcher who has not pitched this year, but he will be making his return this Sunday against the Padres. That will be Taijuan Walker. And Taijuan is such an interesting case study because he's been good for other teams, but here it's been a really interesting, he's had a really interesting stint here so far, and the fans, myself included, we're a little torn on how he's going to be integrated back into the rotation immediately, because the guy that's taking his place right now is a guy by the name of Spencer Turnbull. As you guys know, you've watching this, you guys are Phillies fans, you know who he is. He was signed by Dombrowski this offseason as sort of a depth piece to be your number 5 starter, but the production he's given you in his 5 starts has been way more than that of a 5th starter. And he's 5 starts, he's 2-0 with a 1.33 ERA. That alone, I think he's earned his spot in the rotation. And, it's a business at the end of the day, and Turnbull is signed on a 1-year prove-it deal. The Phillies gave Taijuan Walker a 4-year, $70+ million contract a few seasons ago, and they're not going to come out and say that's the reason, because you're never going to get that type of confirmation from teams. They're going to give you these player speak, more like coach speak answers. And Taijuan is going to start on Sunday, and Turnbull has done everything he can to earn a spot in the rotation. And what I ultimately think is going to end up happening, if Turnbull's not getting released or anything, they're just going to move him to the bullpen. But what I believe will happen is Taijuan, if he doesn't go at least 5 innings on Sunday, I'm only saying 5 because in the most recent start against the Reds, Turnbull went 5, and he had 8 strikeouts through 5 innings. 1 run. I mean, Turnbull's been electric. And he also, against the Rockies, another highlight, he had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning. And he looks nasty, man. I don't know. I know Taiwan, they gave him the money and they have to insert him back into the rotation, but me personally, if I was Rob Thompson, I was making this decision. I would let Turnbull go until he has a start where he gets hit around. And so far, he has not had a start where he's been hit around really at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pitching dilemma really plays out. And yeah, the Phils are hot, and hopefully they can just keep it rolling through the rest of April and through the rest of the season. Okay, on to the Sixers. Man, they're down 2-0 to the Knicks, but the vibe around the city or around fans that I've just been seeing is they've been getting robbed realistically. Game 1, they got beat. The Knicks outworked them. They out-hustled them. They gave the Knicks way too many second chance points in Game 1. And Game 1, they lost. Fair and square, the Knicks beat them. I can live with that. Game 2 is where it gets a little dicey. So, Game 2, Sixers they're up 5 with about 50 seconds, 30 seconds. There's not much time left on the clock is what I'm getting at. And the Knicks hit a 3. Jalen Brunson hits a 3. It bounces in. And the Sixers are trying to inbound the ball. And there's a lot that goes on this play. But to just sum it up, Tyrese Maxey, who was trying to get open from the inbounds so he could, catch it. They'll foul him right away. Go to the free throw line. Maxey's a great free throw shooter. He gets fouled not once, but twice by Josh Hart. And if you think I'm just saying this because I'm a biased Sixers fan, I mean, I am, but in this particular sense, he did get fouled. The league's 2-minute report from this game came out, and both calls there were 2 calls against Maxey or against Hart that they didn't call, and the league openly admitted that they made a mistake. And Sixers fans, obviously, were not happy about this. They were happy that the refs admitted they made a mistake, but in the moment, we could all see with our own 2 eyes that Maxey was getting harassed. And not only that, once they eventually did get the ball in, Nick Nurse was on the sideline motioning to the referee like this. And anybody that watches basketball or even football knows when a coach is doing this, he wants a timeout. And Nick Nurse had his hands like this close. Like he was motioning for a timeout. And that one's a little iffy because, Maxey, maybe he didn't have full possession or whatever. But nonetheless, the Sixers got hosed in Game 2. And the stars are performing right now. Joel Embiid on one leg, and there's something wrong with his eye. They're not telling us, but there's been all these reports that he wore sunglasses during shoot around, and in the locker room he was wearing sunglasses as well. And when he was talking to the media after Game 2, he wasn't even looking at them in the eye. He was kind of looking down like that. It's really, there's some suspect stuff going on with Joel, but he's been performing. He had 35 in Game 2. I mean, he's still doing his thing, and he's obviously playing through some stuff. And I really respect that out of Joel. And the narrative that he's soft or he's this, he's not soft. He just gets hurt a lot, and he's trying to battle through it, and I respect that. Another guy, their other star who's been battling through some, not injuries but an illness, is Tyrese Maxey, and oh my God, he was hitting some really, really big shots down the stretch. At the end of the game, kind of seemed like Joel was deferring to him a little bit. Mainly Joel was exhausted. Tyrese is the guard. The guard normally gets the shots, but it's just so awesome to see his leap from last year, or from his rookie year to that next year to last year to now. He's just improved every year The league, fortunately, saw that as well by naming him the most improved player, which he more than deserved for how he played in the regular season, because it's a regular season award. Obviously, he's even elevated his game in the playoffs. He also had 33 in game one, another 34. He had 34 in game two. And that's why Sixers fans aren't, or at least me and most Sixers fans I've talked to, aren't panicking about this series yet, because the stars, Embiid and Maxey, are producing. They're doing their thing. And Jalen Brunson, the Knicks star, they've been shutting him out of the game. Josh Hart has been going out there and just been balling out. A guy who wasn't a big free throw shooter, a big three-point shooter in the regular season, has come out and just been, banging threes for the Knicks. He had 5 yesterday. He had a bunch in game one. I mean, it's been rough, but now game 3 tonight, back in Philadelphia, and I think, obviously the season's on the line, but this is the most confident I've been in a Sixers team pulling off a win in a really, really long time. I think Tyrese Maxey is in for another masterclass type performance. I think Joel's going to do his thing. And role players always tend to play better at home. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think one of Kelly Oubre, Nico Batum, or Buddy Hield is going to step up. And if that happens, no doubt in my mind, the Sixers are going to take game 3. Might take game 4 as well, because they'll have momentum. They'll still be at home. Who knows what's going to happen in this series? But as far as for game 3, tonight, Sixers down 2-0. I think the Sixers are going to pull this one out. And hopefully, they can pull themselves out of this and come back and win the series. I know it's asking a lot, but I've seen crazier things in the NBA, and especially with this team. So, go Sixers. And that will conclude yet another episode of Rational Talk. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, go Phillies, go Sixers.